And bringing you another DataOps success story will be Zaloni customer Ken Kryst, partner at PwC, who will lead us through their story on expanding collaboration through end-to-end DataOps. Welcome, Ken.
Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you all taking the time to join me today. My name is Ken Kryst. I'm a partner with PwC's Data and Analytics practice based out of Philadelphia. Very excited and also honored that Zaloni has asked us to participate in the conference and given me the opportunity to speak with you all today. I would like to take a moment and personally thank Susan Cook and all the folks from Zaloni who have given us this opportunity. I know them personally. I worked with them for quite a while. And also my firm, PwC, has a fairly long-standing relationship with Zaloni. Not only are we partners helping clients collectively solve complex business problems, but we are a customer ourselves, utilizing Zaloni's technology for our own internal data management needs, which I can assure you are fairly complex. So I'm excited to be here today with you. My topic is going to center around PwC's point of view around DataOps. So I'm going to take you through that. Today, we're going to touch on the need for DataOps in today's business environment. We'll go through what we call the value equation for DataOps, and then also introduce our own DataOps framework. So we'll start off with Newsflash for everybody. Data management is becoming increasingly complex. However, for anybody that's on the call today, this is not any new news to you. It's something that we've been dealing with for quite a while, both on the supply side and the demand side. On the supply side, we're dealing with ever-increasing amounts of data being captured through multiple means. First off, traditionally, think of systems like your ERP and CRM. Secondly, emerging, think of Internet of Things, IoT, and sensors. And then tertiary, third-party data sets that are now available for organizations to either acquire through free channels or curated data sets that vendors provide that they can purchase. At the same time, on the demand side, the consumers of this data are becoming more and more sophisticated, and they're asking much more advanced questions of the data. They also have access to much more powerful tools to get answers to those data, to those questions. Sorry. Adding to this, if you think about it, executives who have for years used the mantra of data as an asset, I think that they're becoming much more aware of the competitive advantage that data can give organizations, and they want to start to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And then lastly, when you think about the compliance demands on all of us, things like SOX compliance, all the challenges around privacy and security, as well as supporting things like your regular audit or internal audit that require much more rigor around data management. So the traditional approach to data management needs to evolve to meet this growing need. Fundamentals such as master data management, data catalogs, lineage, governance, all getting much more airtime than they did in the past. Add to this, and I'll quote my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies, Top Gun, the need for speed, which is basically introducing more agile concepts, things like low-code, no-code structures for data engineering, and supporting more citizen-led innovation, where getting data and tools in the hands of consumers is more critical than it has ever been in the past. Next thing, think about the cloud. Everyone loves the cloud, but one big shift with the movement to the cloud is that the true cost of data management is much more visible from a storage and compute perspective, because every month now you get a bill for all the costs associated with it. And if you think about managing data in a hybrid environment or multi-cloud environment, that makes it even more complex. As we went through this process, we spoke to a number of our clients did some benchmark surveys, and came up with some interesting statistics, a couple of which are on the screen today, but some others. 1/3 of all companies that we talk to are not confident in their ability to access relevant data that they can trust and make informed decisions. Another one is about half those companies that we spoke to have data spread across 5 or more strategic data platforms, not applications, but big platforms. And bringing that all together, as you can imagine, is fairly complex. So enter the concept of data ops. The goal of data ops is not only to effectively manage data, but also to embed this continual service improvement mindset into it. So this involves a couple of key things. First off, shoring up the basics of traditional data management and applying them across the entire data lifecycle. I mentioned earlier, lineage, metadata management, master data management, catalogs, governance. So all those are what I would consider traditional, or what we would consider traditional data management. The second thing is utilizing more up-to-date tools for both managing data as well as consuming it to produce meaningful insights. So when we think about artificial intelligence, AI, ML, it's well known what's possible on the consumer side, although that's changing, on a daily basis when you look at some of the things that we're doing from a data science perspective. But one of the things we asked was, what about using those same tools for data management? Things like master data anomaly detection, data quality management, data lineage, learning from the environment itself, watching data as it flows through the ecosystem, addressing issues as they occur, and getting smart and starting to eliminate some of the bottlenecks. The third thing, we talked about the need for speed, the need for agility, and the ability to quickly deploy solutions based on rapidly changing business needs. Answers beget more questions. So every answer we deliver, there's going to be another question. We have to turn around and quickly be able to deliver that next answer. The next thing is making sure data is trusted. That's a big thing. That people can rely on it for decision making. They need to know, where is it coming from? Are the right rules being applied to transformations? Is it of high quality? Can I rely on it to make my decisions? And then the last thing, optimizing ROI, keeping a handle on the costs of managing data as an asset. We have to take care of the data, but it also has to be done in a way that's fit for purpose and right-sized, if you will. Okay. So one thing to note, and I'll start at the outset, is data ops is not the same as DevOps. Our point of view, and I know that others share this, is that a lot of the concepts and principles from DevOps have been borrowed from the application development realm and applied to data. So when we think about things like agile, continuous service improvement, automations, all those things come into play. But applying them in the data world has its own nuances, and there are big differences when you get down to the marrow. So the DataOps framework that PwC has developed seeks to take into account all aspects of data management, everything that's required to manage data across the traditional data lifecycle, and applying these concepts to it. This underscores the importance of several things. First off, the need to collaborate between multiple people within the lifecycle. So business users have questions. Data scientists are charged with finding answers to those questions. The data engineering team, whose job it is to supply that data. Your third-party partners with required expertise that are brought in. The list goes on and on and on. And making sure that we can collaborate amongst those groups, tremendously important. The second thing, the need to quickly build, deploy, scale, refine, and improve data solutions. Third, the use of automations to reduce the concept of human in the loop, and to help instill quality and validate data needs throughout the entire chain. Fourth thing, optimal ingestion, storage, and integration of data. We talked about right sizing and fit for purpose, making sure we're capturing what we need, making sure that we're doing it in a way that's cost effective. Fifth, Ensuring both the business stakeholders and those responsible for data management are working together to properly govern data assets. This is something that I've heard for years with regards to IT understands the value of governing the data, but traditionally it's been hard to convince the business to participate in that activity. And quite frankly, it doesn't work unless both parties are very much involved. And the last thing is, unlocking the value of data through reporting, exploration, and more advanced analytic techniques. So, some additional fun figures that we came up with in our research, and that I wanted to highlight the true value of DataOps. If you look at the screen, you can see, what we saw as, time spent on some of the more traditional data management functions, and time saved when DataOps is applied correctly. So you can see, a reduction in the time it takes to deliver new insights, the time it takes to instill high quality data and enforce data quality management concepts, the time for implementing process improvements, significantly reduced to do that. The fourth thing, ingesting new data sets, tremendously important, especially when it comes to scaling new capabilities. I talked about the whole answers beget more questions. Usually those additional questions require different data sets, and being able to do that quickly is tantamount. And then lastly, time required for finding and bringing data together for use, traditionally what we call data wrangling, but reducing that and making that much, much easier for folks. One other important aspect to DataOps is building those mechanisms needed to accurately measure and report progress. When I started this conversation, I spoke about two things. First, continuous improvement. You really can't manage and improve what you don't measure. I mean, that's a fundamental concept. So having an accurate view into the specific aspects of the health of your data management lifecycle is critical, and is going to be critical in orchestrating true positive change in the organization, and introducing that rigor and discipline that's required. The second thing, we talked earlier about executives seeing the value in data and trying to exploit that asset. By showing them the improvements that you're making over time, both in productivity savings, value created, proper cost management, you unlock the key to continue to get support. And when I talk about support, I mean funding, to continue the journey and scale out vital capabilities that your organization needs. So with that, I think that we'll go to a Q&A session. I did want to take a minute to thank the folks again at Zaloni that have allowed me to speak today on this topic. I hope you found it worthwhile. I look forward to continuing the dialogue and answering any questions that you have. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Ken. What an amazing story highlighting the scalability of a single DataOps platform like Zaloni's. So let's go ahead and take a few questions from the audience. Again, everyone, you can ask a question by using the Q&A tab located in the lower bottom of your screen. So Ken, for our first question, how do you encourage collaboration across your data producers and consumers?
Yeah, Kelsey, I think that that's a very good question, and it's one that has multi-facets to it. At the end of the day, I do think that there needs to be empathy between both the consumers and the producers of data. And I think that when you put the proper governance structures in place and stewardship in place, and just start an active dialogue, that people come to understand that, from the IT or the data perspective, why do people need things, in the format or as quickly as they need them, the pace that they need to move at, or the real business value of why they're doing something. And I find more times often than not that the IT folks and data folks really appreciate when that story is told to them instead of just being like order takers. On the consumer side, the business side, I think all too often what we do is a bit magic. I just had a conversation today with a business executive, and we were talking about a data model, and he was like, "Yeah, what's the big deal?" I'm like, "Let me explain what the big deal is." I think that empathy. I think leaders focusing on making those connection points, trying to educate themselves and educate their people, and all that's very much change management. I personally am not very good at change management. However, I do believe in the value of it. I would say that that's one of the biggest mechanisms. I also think that like when you get a success story or two that you can sing from on high, and talk about, here's what I did for person XYZ over here, and the value that we created, and how they were able to take the data or the information or the tools that we provided and do something good for the company. All of a sudden you get a lot of people knocking on your door. As part of change management, I'd say doing that internal PR. I talked about measuring your success, but finding those anchor points and going out and talking to the business about what you're capable of doing. Sometimes in data, I think that we're I'd say a little gun shy to do that because we're afraid of the onslaught of requests that might come. But I do think that doing stuff like that is the way to go, and educating people in that regard.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ken. Empathy is one of my favorite words, so I'm so glad to hear you say that today. And everyone, you can also review Ashwin's presentation from earlier on DataOps, BioOps, and MLOps for additional insights also. So for our next question, what is the difference between DataOps and data DevOps?
I don't know if there's a really stark difference between the two. The only thing I could think of there is that there are, I would probably say it's a subset of DataOps where you're actually using data to derive either insights or other data sets. I talked a little bit earlier about using traditional, emerging, some non-traditional, and then those third-party data sets to create new assets. We're doing a lot of that at PwC, where and it's pretty interesting because we have access to a ton of third-party data sets. We also produce a lot of data ourselves, and occasionally we're able to utilize that to pull that together and use our clients' data to derive new insights and new data assets for them.
Great. All right. And Ken, so when you need to explain ROI and tangible dollar value to your internal constituents, what stories or examples do you use?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd probably, I think about it in two different ways. One is, the business actually doing something with data to produce a result that's usually, more oftentimes than not, it's revenue uplift or cost savings, one of the two. We just recently went through a pretty interesting exercise with a client where we talked about, from a data quality perspective, what the issues are and what that was costing them. It was particularly around the areas of location and where they were shipping products, and when they had issues, what the cost of that was. And that was a very simple example, but we uncovered, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that, made them want us to go forward. And we uncovered a few more examples, and we turned around and it turned into, millions of dollars of savings. And all of it was embedded in, at first, data quality. Cleaning it up one time is no problem, but keeping it clean and making sure it never happens again, that's really data ops. So I think that, a lot of businesses have been focused on, growth and movement forward and progress, and, all those sorts of things. And the proper care and feeding of data is not always something that's top of mind until you surface it. and talk about, well, here's what it's really costing us, either from, we talked about data wrangling, we talked about, missteps on the part of the business because they're trying to rely on data that has issues, fundamentally with it. And then that, the revenue uplift from using more advanced tools to find value in data. And I think if you, gravitate to those things and show true, monetized dollar values behind it, you get a lot more attention on the business side.
Great. And our next question, what low code tools do you use in DataOps?
There's a ton of them out there. I'm not really well versed in too many of them, to be honest with you. I have a ton of architects that could probably field that question a lot better, but I do know that, the low code, no code concept, when you think of tools like at PwC, we use Alteryx an awful lot. And for those of us that have been using, the Informaticas and the Ab Initios of the world for the past 20 years, it's not something that's like rocket science to us. But I can tell you, when you show tools like that to, a tax department or folks in marketing, that makes that whole data wrangling concept a lot easier. It's just fascinating. It's like showing someone fire for the first time. And it really unlocks a lot of value. I did talk about the concept of automation, particularly citizen-led automation. That's something that we're very big on here at PwC. And it's something that we're having that conversation with our clients. Whereas, you have very smart people that want to do stuff with data, but they're kind of handcuffed because they don't have the right tools. So providing those tools and giving them that training unlocks a huge amount of value for companies.
Great. And we have another question, but as a reminder to the audience, please use that Q&A tab to type any questions that you have. So what's the biggest hurdle you see your customers experiencing right at the beginning of implementing DataOps, and how do you recommend they get over those hurdles at the outset?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hurdles and obstacles, I'd probably say, we talk to companies about getting that executive support, and at the outset, making sure that the executive support is going to be long-term. It's something that has to be, consistently reminded, or executives need to be consistently reminded and told up front. This isn't a 2-month, fix it. This is transformational. This is going to take some time, but finding quick wins and showing progress along the way so that you can continue momentum and continue that funding and continue that support. So that's probably the first thing. And a large part of that is educating non-technical, non-data people on the value of it. And that's where I think the common ground is when you start talking dollars and cents, people pull up a chair and listen. The second thing is probably, the data management function reinventing itself and kind of getting out of its old ways. I think people are enamored with new tools and new technology, but I think that also has to, go hand in hand with new processes. Sometimes it's, org changes that should be put in place. Sometimes it's, learning that we could do this and we could figure this out, but it's going to take a while. Why don't I find a partner that can do it quicker and learn to move faster and not getting paralyzed by analysis. I've seen clients that have gone, through 6 months of vendor evaluations and come out with a decision that really everybody knew within the first month what should be picked. And you've lost that time. Sometimes it's better to just get moving and deal with it as you go.
Yep, absolutely. So we have one additional question. It's a two-parter, but I'll remind the audience to keep sending in those questions using the Q&A tab. So do you have any recommendations for how to measure success? And are there any tools you can use to help track improvements over time?
Tools for measuring success. So we talked about, at the end there, we showed a dashboard. I'm a big fan of metrics, especially when it comes to data quality metrics. I think that, when you look at monetized saving, that's another big one. I also like teaming up with like the enterprise PMO office. So you can look at the portfolio of projects, look at on-time delivery, look at throughput of projects and value added. I mean, I know that they measure all those. And again, like you should stake a claim, and I had a part in doing that. I think that's very valuable. We talked about the analytics use cases and the revenue generating. And in today's world too, Kelsey, there's this demand. I mean, everybody knows it in the labor environment that we're in, that we need to do more with less, right? So I think if you can show that you're keeping your head above water and keeping up with the business, that's a success in and of itself in today's world. But yeah, focusing on some of those areas is what I'd say. With regards to tools, clearly, I think Zaloni is a tool that can help with that. We really like, the concept of those dashboards, those executive dashboards, and pulling data from multiple tools to show that. And those dashboards, for what they're worth, they do get executive attention.
Absolutely.